You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. This week,
so before you even bring someone on, are you able to identify what's special about what it is that you're doing? Do you know how you're leveraging that across channels? Do you even know what the pitch is? I think that there's so many businesses within the same market and everybody wants exposure. Everybody wants PR, but a lot of people don't know what their unique value proposition is. And that's what really allows you to formulate your foundation and your framework for what type of press you're looking to get, what type of, platforms you're looking to be in and things of that nature.
Question: are you ready for exposure? So think about it. You have this business idea, you've defined your target audience, you've done all of that, but are you still ready? Or have you contemplated hiring a publicist but just don't have the budget? Now what? Well, it's actually not the end of the world because trust me, I totally get it. That's why this week's Chief Chat is all about working with what you've got and being your own publicist. How can you prepare your brand or business for exposure? So joining me on this week's Chief Chat is Fatou Berry, founder of the PR Girl Manifesto, where she helps millennials gain clarity around the who, what, why of their visual brands. Berry encourages the building of authentic and strategic brands while positioning clients for success in their respective markets. Fatou got her start as a social coordinator for Marc, Ecko, Cut and Sew, managing all of the brand's digital assets and campaigns. This led to a career in the world of digital marketing and interactive media at Iconix Brand Group, working with the brands such as Starter, Umbro, Rocnation and Modern Amusement. Fatou's work is driven by her desire to encourage young female professionals to navigate the spheres of PR and brand development. She has created several digital online spaces to grow and connect this community and share knowledge and experience to generate opportunity. So this week, Fatou stopped by to share what she knows. During this episode, Fatou really broke down all the basics and definitions in PR, so I hope you got your pen and paper for this one. During this episode, we discussed how to BYOP, be your own publicist, finding your UVP, unique value proposition, and how to tell your story to get press. And lastly, what steps to take to hire someone to handle your PR if you choose to do so. So let's get into it. So Fatou, thank you so much for joining us on the Black to Business podcast. I'm so excited that you are here today, and I'm excited about the wonderful information that we have to share with the audience.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Of course. So for the listeners, I always start out with, for those who don't yet know you or just getting familiar with who you are, if you could just tell them a little bit about yourself, what you do in your business and why.
Okay. So I'm a New York City-based PR strategist, originally from Conakry, Guinea. Pretty much obsessed with all things that have to do with branding and public relations. I really love helping companies and clients build these authentic and strategic brands. And I do this through strategic content, press exposure, and intentional design. I actually got my start in the industry working at Marc, Ecko, Cut and Sew, managing all of the brand's digital assets and campaigns. And then I started working in PR and digital marketing at Iconix Brand Group, which owns the brand. So I was doing a lot of press, a lot of digital for Starter, Umbro, Rockaware, Modern Amusement, Team Ice Cream, and I did that for a while. And after that, I moved into a director role at a denim company called DID, and then just really was at a point where I had wanted to do what I was doing for these brands on my own. So I transitioned into the role of a full-time entrepreneur and owner of several businesses. So my own experiences in my career journey have really driven my desire to help other brands and businesses and young professionals to navigate the spheres of PR and brand development. And so, now in my life, I really do believe in the power of collaborative mentorship. And that's what I'm doing through PR Girl Manifesto and through my agency. So it's driven by it drives my work and my personal growth.
Wow, like that was that was a lot, and that was amazing. And kudos to you for all your hard work, it seems, and then stepping out on your own. Which we're going to talk all about all of these things and how you were able to transition. But
Mm-hmm.
so excited about today's topic because I think it's important for our business owners to recognize that sometimes you can be your own publicist and going up to that level of giving if you decide to get a PR or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about PR. So I'd like to touch on like what is PR and a publicist and why do businesses necessarily need them?
Awesome. So the first thing that I find always interesting being in the industry and seeing how people perceive it is that PR and publicity are actually like considered to be one and the same, but it's not. So publicity is one component of public relations. So you can be a publicist and not be a PR professional. So when you're talking about publicity, we're really talking about like a company, an organization, or just an individual like brand presence in the media. So this is like news stories, articles, any type of event information. Publicity really creates that public awareness and attention around the brand. And when you're a publicist, you're gaining publicity for a client by securing these placements for them and promoting them. But very different from actual public relations. It's only used, like publicity is only used to attract attention. It differs from the sense that public relations focuses on more than just getting that placement. It's about those strategic partnerships. It's about messaging. It's about really integrating yourself in these communication funnels. So it's like a weird nuance, which is why I think it's always important for people to really chat about deliverables when they want to bring on PR, especially if you're a small business or a brand, because you can get disappointed because what you think you're going to get as a deliverable really isn't there. But another thing that I think sometimes is that people think that PR and publicity is easy,
Yes.
which is why they don't really give too much thought to bringing someone on. I mean, it's definitely possible to do it yourself PR, but it's something that if you are looking to make that extra leap and that extra step, that it's really important to get somebody who knows, what they're doing and is able to kind of man that for you.
Definitely. And that's the thing that I think, and it was so great that you mentioned like the deliverables and also some people thinking that they don't need. So I know a lot of the Black to Business audience is startups and those who are, just getting started or, 1 or 2 year mark. So what are some ways that they can determine if they're ready to get help and then build up to that moment that they are ready?
Of course. Yeah. So I think, honestly, I always say the first thing is to actually understand the basics of PR while you are potentially hiring someone to man this part of your business for you. You still need to know the foundation of it so that you know how to properly express what you're looking for. A lot of people don't even know what a story idea is. They don't know what a pitch is. They don't know what a press release is. And these are all things that are on Google and things that you can educate yourself on and figure out what purpose they serve. I think also it's also like understanding their business from the PR angle. So before you even like bring someone on, are you able to identify what's special about what it is that you're doing? Do you know how you're leveraging that across channels? Do you even know like what the pitch is? I think that there's so many businesses within the same market and everybody wants exposure. Everybody wants PR, but a lot of people don't know what their unique value proposition is. And that's what really allows you to formulate like your foundation and your framework for what type of press you're looking to get, what type of, platforms you're looking to be in and things of that nature. And also their story, like who do you want to tell your story in the media? So being able to identify that. So I always tell my clients, like, I have them prepare a media wish list. So letting me know, like, if, my brand or my business, or if I was in any publication, like these like my top 10 publications I would love to be in, because then that kind of, that provides a clear understanding between PR pro and between client about like what the goals are. So I think understanding, like I said, their businesses from the PR angle is a very, 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 very smart and integral thing to do before even looking to outsource.
Until you are coming with the facts, honey. you know, the facts. I'm over here like, okay, that. So I think, you know your stuff. So I'll say that.
I've been doing it since I was 16, so I would hope so.
We can hear it, we can tell. And one of the things that you definitely mentioned is like what I want to dive into is some people, and I think it's okay. And a lot of business owners, they're scared to say what they don't know. When it comes to, and I think it's important, like you mentioned, that story idea, that pitch, and that press release. Can we dive a little bit into like what are those things and when do you need them?
Of course. So we're looking at things like, for example, when you're first creating your business, I always, it's not something that a lot of people think about, but I feel like most businesses, when they create their business, they should already be thinking about the PR component of their business, not necessarily acting upon it, but thinking about it. So a story idea is, anything that pretty much what the story is that you could be pitching to a journalist. So that's what kind of allows you to formulate the pitch. So, let's say I am just using like a random situation. Let's say I'm a beauty brand, right? What about my beauty brand is unique? What are some potential story ideas? Have I like released a special limited edition product? Have I done something like, is my beauty brand sustainable? Does it partner with like, an organization? So things of that nature, really bulleting down the components of your business and kind of identifying what the stories are that circulate around it. So those are your story ideas. Your pitch is actually what you're sending out to journalists and media gatekeepers. So that's what you're emailing people, or what you're getting on cold calls or talking to these media gatekeepers about. So now that I've identified that, let's use the fact that that my brand partners with an organization. The pitch would be maybe Women's History Month is coming up and you're donating, half of your proceeds to the organization. So that's the pitch itself that you want to get exposure on. And then there are a lot of like different things that fall into collateral. So like, a press kit, which is pretty much a preview or look into the brand, into where it's been, what it's about, any notable features, who mans it, like who's behind it. Then you have something like a one pager, which is like a quick fact sheet that allows people to know anything they might need to know about your business. If you're in fashion or maybe retail, you might have a line sheet. So there's so many like different like smaller documents and smaller components that go into your press outreach. And what's amazing about it is that the internet, we've got Google, we've got this great thing, and that's called a computer, and all this stuff you can find online. I think it's just a matter of doing the research.
Definitely. So would you recommend, just say I'm someone who's just starting, would you recommend me go out and start thinking about PR, or kind of like build myself to that level first?
I always think build yourself to that level first. And the reason I say that is because many times people want press or they want exposure, but their brand isn't really ready for that press and exposure. So there's a whole process of brand building and positioning that has to happen before you start outreaching and wanting press. There's certain things that publications and platforms are taking note of. Has anything significant happened in your business? I'm going to bring up this UVP, unique value proposition, because it's really, I think it's very important for brands. Do you know what your UVP is? Do you even need to bring on a branding strategist to help you hone in on your messaging? Is your business ready to receive the exposure? Like, do you have the organizational structure to support, like let's say your brand hits the pages of Essence tomorrow, right? Do you even have like enough inventory or enough of whatever it is that you're providing to if there was this influx in people buying your stuff, So like, do you have a functioning website? I know tons of I've received pitches. I've seen friends who are journalists like get pitches too that are like, hey, I'd love to be featured in your platform, and they have no photos, they have no website, they have no digital hub. So it's like it's not really they're not really in a position to receive press, even though they might want to. So I think all those things are very important. And then going back to this idea of before you even like reach out to bring on a PR, if you're looking to do it yourself, know what your PR goals are, because this is different for everyone. And I always stress this, that as a business owner, you're looking to bring someone on or doing it yourself, you need to have a clear understanding of actually what you hope to gain from PR. Because if you don't, there are two things that can happen. You could partner with the wrong PR agency, with the wrong publicist, with the wrong, just PR pro, and really be disappointed with the process because you're not, expectations are not being met. But had you known what your PR goals were, you'd be able to determine if someone was a good fit for you or not. So things that I think really doing that internal work to identify and to, again, immerse yourself in, like, look at your brand through the lens of, like, are we exposure ready? What about our brand warrants us to get press?
And it's so great that you mentioned that. I remember way back in episode 1, we actually had Tanya Rapley of My Fab Finance on. Yes. And one of the things she did, she mentioned what you said about making sure you're ready for the press. And, is your inventory up? Because that can be a whole nother issue if you're not ready.
And then that could become a PR problem in itself. And then you have to go into crisis management because then people are wanting to order, but they can't order, and that's not, you are, there's a demand and there's no supply, and that looks bad. It reflects badly on your brand and your business. So,
don't want those problems.
No.
So Fatou, another thing, and it just popped in my head to ask because I wanted to know this, this thing about, you mentioned, being disappointed with those, you didn't get those things that you wanted because you weren't planning properly. So when it comes to PR agencies or PR person you're hiring, what does it matter to, some people are specific in the industries that they focus on, and you don't want to go get someone that focuses on totally something different. So what has your experience been like with that, and what advice do you have to people for making sure that they get the right person?
Well, I always say, again, my biggest thing is synergy. So irregardless of whatever, I feel like there needs to be a synergy between you and your PR professional. Like, I have clients, we go through a series of consultations and we really get to know each other because PR is not something that's it's a one-off thing. It's this person that you bring on is someone you're going to be working with for a while, whether it be 6 months, whether it be a year, so you really need to make sure that the synergy is there. One, the communication style, how you guys communicate with each other. Are they able to pick up on what your needs are? Is their brand of PR even what you're looking for? Because I have people who, I've seen source people who are event planners and expect them to be PR professionals, because we're in an age where, as a PR pro, all these different smaller sectors fall within public relations. So I think really having those conversations, if you are in a specific industry, you want someone who has a track record of having clients in that industry. That's, if you're in tech, you're not going to get someone in entertainment. PR might not make sense. They might not have the right relationships, the right contacts to be able to deliver what you want. So it's a lot of doing research on the end of the client. I think before even reaching out to an agency, and then if it's the other way around, if an agency or PR professional reaches out to you, really have those conversations. So I would suggest doing a lot of background information. I would suggest asking or letting them know some of the things that you want as deliverables. What's your bandwidth? What is your capacity to do something like X, Y, and Z? Have you ever done PR for a brand like this? Hey, can you even show me case studies? So these questions that you're really treat it like an interview, as you should, because it is your business, it is your brand. And if you're looking to invest, PR can be pricey. So if you're looking to make that investment, I think it's very important to have multiple conversations and to make sure that the synergy is there and that the goals and what you want, your expectations, will, have deliverables.
Yes. So speaking of PR being pricey, I want to talk about budgets and action, the action step of it. So I think that it's not the end of the world if you don't have that budget, letting people know that it's not the end of the world, but, preparing. So what advice or some, insights that you can give people on budgets, whether it's starting from just with themselves and then moving into hiring someone? And what is that process like?
I mean, it really depends because I know people who provide PR packages, and I'm like, a little bit on the fence about it. I haven't really decided how I feel about it. I think it makes sense for project-based stuff, but when you're really talking about like providing a brand or getting someone to do PR at a package rate, I'm never too sure about it, because I think I come from the school of thought where it's just like, when you hire PR, it's on a retainer. You guys are working together over a long period of time. So, I know agencies that a retainer for them is like $9,000 a month, and that's just a month. And then I know, PR can get hella pricey. And then I know other other agencies, or maybe more boutique agencies, more freelancers, who are taking on clients at between like $1,000 and $2,500 per month retainer. Which is a little bit more normal. I always say, honestly, that if you are looking to get someone to do good PR for you, PR that is proven to yield results, I would say, being ready to invest anywhere between $1,500 to $3,000 a month for at least 3 months, because most PR professionals, most PR freelancers and agencies are going to make you sign a retainer. So it's not just 1 month. You got to have that ready for at least 3 months. So that's always how I tell people to gauge, if they're ready. Some things that are a little bit more affordable is, instead of outsourcing, getting someone to work in-house, giving them an hourly rate to work on stuff. But that all goes back to being prepared so that you're not wasting your time. So you know exactly what they're working on, exactly how many hours a week, you need them to work on it, and that it fits within the budget that you have. And sometimes, if you're a self-starter, if you're somebody who is pretty good at acclimating and adapting into industries, a consultation might even just be what you need with the PR professional, for them to let you know what they think you should be doing, and then you go do it, So there are a lot of different ways, I think, I don't want to say get around, but there are a lot of different ways to work within the budget that you have. On top of that, there are resources that can help you. So, you're hiring someone as a PR professional because either they have established media connects, or you want those connects. There are a lot of opportunities and programs and softwares online that actually take out the middle person of a PR pro and provide you with the content that you'll need in terms of like contacts for journalists, in terms of story ideas, like things that people are looking to write about.
Definitely. And so now I got to get to when people, reaching out to people and to get press. So what are some of the mistakes that you see people doing businesses, when they reach out to press, or even in their branding story? And what is some advice that you can give to make sure you don't make these mistakes?
Girl, there's so much, and I I hate to say it like that. It's terrible, because sometimes you'll witness, or you'll get emails, or you're just like be privy to certain streams of communication, and you actually feel bad for the client, because it's like, wow, they're really not getting press, because it's not because their product isn't good, or because it's not press worthy, but it's because of the way that someone is communicating on the behalf of them. But what I will say is, most of the things that seem to overlap, whether it's someone who's doing PR for themselves, or whether it's just, maybe a PR pro who's not properly trained, is that, again, the foundation of the brand and the company isn't there to even to get press or publicity. Second, they don't actually know what the story or angle is for what they're trying to do. So instead of telling the story, they're selling products. And as we all know in branding, people identify with emotions. It's kind of the same in public relations. People don't really care about the product. They care about the story behind the product. And then the story behind the product is what, prompts them to want to invest in the product. So I had a client a couple of years ago who had created an interactive board game for kids that was really educational, but he wasn't able to get any placements for 6 months, and he was pitching on his own, and just not hearing back, or hearing no, we don't have the bandwidth to include this in our current our editorial calendar. And it's because he was selling the product. And there's how many board games are out there in the world, from right. When we might have been younger to now. So just think about that oversaturated market. But the whole thing is, he wasn't telling the story about why he created a board game. He had created it for his son, who was struggling immensely with math in school. So he had to come up with a way that was creative to help his son kind of like grasp these concepts that he wasn't able to get through, being in school or even having a tutor. As soon as we changed the framework for that story, we were getting the placements that we needed to. We were included in all the roundups of like kids board games that you should get your children, or educational board games. And it's because he changed the story. So he changed the landscape of what people would be interested in. It was an emotional appeal that, wow, the only reason this board game exists or this product exists is it was born. It was created out of a need for a father to provide an educational resource for his son, so that he could help his son get ahead. So as soon as we did that, it changed. So a lot of the times it's really that people are not telling the right stories, or they're really pushing the product. And as much as you may want to see an increase in sales from placements, it's really important to understand that PR is about relationships, and that's also about being in relation to each other. We relate to people emotionally. So I think that's definitely something that people lack, or people aren't able to grasp when they're pitching. Another thing is that folks are actually just blind pitching a publication they want. They're not targeting the right person. For every platform, for every magazine, for every whatever, there's an appropriate person to pitch. There's an appropriate person to have that conversation with. And what people are doing is they're just sending it to any email that they find. If someone never writes a story about female entrepreneurs and never highlights anybody, like, why would you pitch them, a story about that? It makes no sense. There's no precedent. There's no like previous work to support that the pitch will be well received. So I definitely say blind pitching. Just also language, like, we all know that email etiquette, we know that it's something that, sometimes people struggle with, but really in PR, just making sure that everything that you're writing, everything that you're sending out there is concise, is grammatically correct, makes sense. So that's another reason, but those are definitely some key reasons why people's are not getting the press exposure that they want.
And it's so good that you mentioned that. I'll say, we get being that, and I'll just interject my stuff.
No worries. I'm sure you guys can put plenty of emails.
There's a ton of emails about, can I be on the Black, or different things in it. I think the ones I skip over is, of course, the ones who are blindly pitching. And it's always also about, it's something about also when people circle back around. I think that is another thing as well. So
yeah, it's big, because the thing is like, and another thing that I feel like sometimes people don't understand about public relations or just PR is you're going to hear no, or you're not going to hear something, you're not going to hear for a while, but it doesn't mean that you just stop. It doesn't mean that like you give up. So I always say this, anyone that has a platform, especially one where they feature people or they provide like an opportunity to to shine the light on other businesses and brands, they're getting inundated with emails and messages every single day. So it's really easy for your message to get lost in the sauce of like everything else they have in their inbox. So it's really important to follow up, and it's really important to circle back, because sometimes people just, they don't have the bandwidth in their mind to remember that you sent an email, that they have to follow up. So I always say that circling back and following up is important, and it's very key.
Yes, that's what I say. Charge it to the game and not the heart.
Right.
Definitely. So you have been giving, yes, that's the thing. It's like, it's not personal.
Yeah.
But you've been giving us the business, and I really want to dive into really, more on your story, and how did you go about getting your first clients, and what was it like for you, stepping out into entrepreneurship?
It's been a journey. And I always say this to people, like, I think we're in an age of instant gratification, where we really want things to happen at an expedited speed. I don't know if it's because everything is so accessible to us. It probably is. So we feel like it's the same for our professional journeys and like the trajectory of our careers. But like I said, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. And when I first started doing it, I didn't even realize that I was, doing PR. I didn't realize that I was like, oh, this is what public relations is. Oh, this is what, digital PR and marketing is. So it's been a journey for me. just thinking back from like at 16, like the emails that I, had the opportunity to write, or the projects that I had the opportunity to be a part of, to now, having clients that I'm completely manning on my own, that, almost feel like my kids, like they're extensions of me. It's been a process. So my first client I got, and I tell this story and I think everyone laughs at, when I was in undergrad, I actually had 2 companies already. So when I was in college, it's the first time that I had even thought about, somewhere down the line, I want to work for myself. Somewhere down the line, like I want my own agency. So my first clients were actually other students on campus. I created a company, completely dissolved now, but it's the beginning of like what is now. It was called Collegiate Crown. And the whole thing was that I wanted to bridge the gap for college entrepreneurs who had these great business ideas, but didn't know where to start, who needed brand development, who needed like to get press. Cause, I was a part of several student organizations, and I had secured press for all of our events. So I went to school in Buffalo. So we were in like the Buffalo News. We were in like on TV for all of our events. And it's something that no one had like done on my campus before. Everything was done through the school. So you hadn't really heard of like students securing their own press. And so I was like, wow, this is something that I'm good at. This is something that I want to do. So I started Collegiate Crown. I had my first client was this brand called Lièvre Couture, which was a fashion brand online. And I started working with, like artists and other people on our college campus that needed that same press and that needed that same exposure. So that's where that started. Those were my first clients. And then I was able to work. I interned a lot in undergrad before I secured my job. So I was able to kind of like man some of the clients that were part of the agencies that I was interning for. And then it just kept growing. I kept adding to my client list, really also honed in on what type of clients I wanted. So for me, our biggest thing in my agency is that we love to work with female focused brands and, brands that are female owned, because that's what speaks near and dear to my heart. So, Base Butter is one of our clients, for example. You've got Chanel Johnson, who's this amazing female. Yes, right. She's this amazing female entrepreneur who created her beauty brand in college too, So I think that process of like having worked, in my industry and then kind of like been at different stages of it has really helped me to identify, what type of entrepreneur I am and what type of publicist or PR professional I want to be, what type of clients I want to represent and what I want to be known for.
Perfect transition into what is that? Like, what type of clients do you want to have, and what kind of PR would you say you are? What's your style?
Of course. I think I have a really unique lens into the PR industry because I am very familiar with traditional PR. Like I went to school for it. So I got my degree from an accredited communications program. So I know like the old school way of doing PR, but I'm also very, very, very into digital. And I think you'll see it through our community and our brand PR group Manifesto. Like we've got our like hand on like the pulse of like what it means to be a content marketer and how social media plays a part in your press, how branding plays a part in your press exposure. So when I'm looking and working with clients, I think, they get a really unique PR experience because they don't get just a public relations professional. They get a branding strategist. They get a social media consultant. Yes. They get they get even like a visual marketer because I create collateral for my clients. So it's like I always say it's a really holistic way of doing PR. I'm not just looking at PR. I'm looking at everything as like part of the sum of the whole. And for me, I think when it comes to clients, one thing that I've really, really, really stressed upon or transitioned into lately is that, really just wanting to work with purposeful clients. I think it's easy when you first get into any type of entrepreneurial role or just like owning your own business to just work with whoever because, you might need to, you might not have the bandwidth or the leisure of making those choices. Like, I don't want to work with this person or this is not what I want to do. So as I've like built my brand, as I've built my company, it's really been important to me to ask myself, do I want to work with this person? Does it align with what I want? And what I want, I love helping women thrive in their businesses. I've realized that's my niche. I love helping women through intentional design, through some dope visual content, through press. Just that's what I love to do. And as of more recently, I've even stretched it farther than that, where I love working with brands and businesses that come from marginalized and underrepresented groups, because I think that in our, especially, being a woman of color, I think that we have so many businesses out there that are Black owned that are amazing. And the only reason that they're not getting the exposure and they're not getting, the accolades and everything that they deserve is because of that disconnect.
Definitely.
And I think it's a resource that a lot of non-minority groups have, So for me, it's become a personal mission to make those two things, my focus in everything that I do.
Yes. So what's it, you kind of touched on it. It all ties into what's it like working with you. So say I'm all of those qualifications, and the type of brands that you focus on, but what's it like coming and working with you from day one and what's the results like?
Yeah. So working with me is very much like I say, you've got a partner in your back pocket, because that's what I consider myself. I don't like to see my clients as my clients. I think there are a lot of agencies that will be like, yeah, this is my client, or will create that wall of separation, being like, this is someone I manage. This is someone that is that I represent. But I really like to integrate myself into the businesses of my clients. So I don't like to do the bare minimum and call it a day. I like to really understand the story. And I think you'll notice that a lot of my clients become friends.
Yes.
And it's because of the way that of just the way that I am. So even, for example, I went to your most recent panel where you had that amazing dynamic female, all those female entrepreneurs speaking, and I was there, and I didn't have to be there, but Chanel was speaking, and I saw an opportunity for us to really to kind of showcase, our product and our merchandise so people could get a better feel for base butter. So things like that, I'm very integrated into the businesses of my clients. I like my clients to feel as though they are supported, that they have, that I'm on their team, that it's there's a process, there's a service that I'm providing, but I'm also just as much as part of this company as you are. I'm here, wanting its success, because if they achieve, if they get what they want, if they, are happy, it only helps me both, I think professionally and also just as a person, wanting to see people succeed and helping to be that catalyst. So I think that all my clients would say that I'm very, very, very hands-on. I'm very honest. I don't like to, like I said, this whole idea of bare minimum. Some people won't tell you suggestions just because it will create more work for them. I'm not that type of person. I'll be very honest about what I think is, what works for the brands, what works for the products, why we're not getting placements or why we're not achieving these goals. So, and I think it's something that you need. You need someone who's going to be honest with you in all areas. So when it's good, when it's bad. So I let my clients know when I feel like we're dropping the ball on something, when we're not maximizing on a potential avenue for additional exposure. So I think they'd all tell you that, that I'm very hands-on, that I'm half PR pro, half friend. So I think that's the general consensus among them.
Yes. And I'll say this, I got this from Kendia Johnson, when I was lovingly stalking you. That is one of the things that I really noticed is it does seem very genuine. And I think that's important because in business, you want to feel like, of course we can all separate business between these relationships, but you also want to feel like that person has your best interest. And it seems that you really do have that with your clients. And
it is. And I always use this as an example. So you've got to look at the amazing synergy between Cardi B and her publicist Patience, right? Mm-hmm. Patience is Cardi's right hand, like best friend, but she's also her publicist. Right. And that's not like they were friends before. A lot of people think that they were friends before, before being business like related, but they weren't actually. But I think it's because of the way that P has really just like committed herself to her client, and people want that same like authentic just belief and like, partner. And that's how I feel like that's helped propel her business and helped her acquire all these amazing accounts like Fashion Nova, So right. I think it really does play a part when you are authentic, when you genuinely want your clients to win, just the people that you work with. When you're someone that is like realizes the team wins and like how, it's all about collaboration and kind of just really showing up for your clients and showing up for your people, I think that goes a long way.
Definitely. And another thing I always pay attention to is one of the things that you mentioned. So the clients that you work with, they definitely they have a good because one of the things that you also mentioned is I like when people, it's so little, but paying attention when people are speaking about working with you, when they're saying we versus your, and you always say we do this. So I can tell you're very involved in versus your business. So that's amazing. And I think,
thank you.
Yes. And I think that's great. We need more people like that in the business world, honestly.
I agree. I think there's this whole for self or just like this individual idea and rhetoric. And it's just like, it doesn't work like that. It's like, we're all meant to be in relation with each other. We're all meant to help each other. So,
And so Fatou, do you have like any favorite tools that you would recommend people use to get started and that you use to brand your clients?
Yeah. So like, I use different tools for different, like there's so many different areas or I guess steps to the press. So I mean, I have some that I think people would love. So when you're pitching, when you're first starting out, it might be hard if you don't have established media contacts to really know one who's looking for a story or like where to start. There's this great platform called Harrow. It's called Help a Reporter Out. There's a free and a paid plan. And what it does, it allows you to get access to inquiries from reporters. It goes up 3 times a day with a bunch of stories from platforms like Bustle and BuzzFeed who are looking to, pretty much they're on deadline to get these stories done, and they still need, they still need to either interview someone or they need to include people in their roundups. And similar to that, there's pitch rate, there's journal requests, there's PR hunters, there's contactable, like there's a bunch on that end. And then there's also Cision, which a lot more people know about. It's an earned media platform. And what it does, it gives you access to curated list of reports, journalists, and editors for platforms. So if you don't have, maybe the current budget to bring on someone on a retainer who'd be doing all of this stuff for you frequently, it's like an investment, but it saves you that. It's cheaper than I think hiring a PR pro, and it allows you to do it yourself. And you can also distribute your press release through Cision, which I think is great.
How do you spell that?
And then Cision, Cision.
Cision. I'm gonna put them in the show notes, y'all.
Yeah, and then there's even like other stuff. So like perfecting, and these are just like tools and softwares. But if you're looking to perfect your pitch, I think strong written skills are a big part of PR, and being able to not only craft a pitch, but ensure that it sounds good. As we were talking about, sometimes you get these emails that just sound crazy. A business owner and a brand might not necessarily be a natural born writer. So, there's tools that help with this too. So there's Hemingway and Grammarly. That's more on the composition side, but just making sure that your press releases are grammatically correct. And then 2 of my favorites at the current moment are subject line and then readability. So subject line helps you to identify if your subject line is actually going to work. So, that's the first thing that people see when it comes into someone's inbox. So it gives it a score out of 100. Like what's the likelihood of someone like wanting to open this message or someone actually opening this message based on the subject line. And when you're pitching, it's very important because you're not always getting on the phone. Like email is a lot. Like nowadays, it's pretty much like social media too, but it's a big way that people are reaching out to journalists. Readability helps you to understand if what you're writing actually makes sense. So like if all your sentence structures are okay or if it flows. So I really have been loving those too, especially now that, I've brought on employees and I have interns that work with me. So I'm not necessarily like always a person who's able to send stuff out. So it's really important to me that they have tools like this so that they can measure their own work. And I think sometimes that helps too. If you are a business and you want to bring on a PR intern, who's going to be essentially kind of like being in charge of a lot of this stuff, I think it's a great resource. And then not necessarily software, but just skills, like just allocating the time, like setting up the systems for success, like telling yourself, this is my framework. I'm going to create a media wish list. These are the key players, studying the journalists. These are my story ideas. And brainstorming additional pitches, I think are great tools or skill sets to have as well.
Yes, I am writing, and I'm like, yes, gotta check, have to check that out. So you gave us a lot of information. I'm definitely going to check these out for myself.
Yay.
Yes. So I'm going to definitely ask, how can people contact you? But before I do that, we have our little fire round.
Okay.
So the first question, yes, is what advice would you give your 23-year-old self?
Whoa. So that's funny because, 23 was like close to 3 years ago. Wow.
Yes.
23-year-old self, keep pushing. I think at 23, I actually hit like a real, like I joked that I had my first midlife crisis. So I was just passively like kind of like, 23 was actually the year that I decided that after 24, I could no longer or could no longer work, for anyone apart from myself. So 23 was the year I started to make the transition. So I think just reminding myself, I would tell myself that you're making the right decisions, that, the haze and the fog will clear. You just got to stay really committed to the goal. And I know that people say this all the time, but trust the process. There are things that happen at 23, and it's only now that I'm able to realize how it set me up for, where I'm at now. I am exponentially like happier than I was at 23. I feel more confident, in everything that I'm doing. So I think just really staying committed and like trusting the bigger plan and just doing the work. That's what I would have told myself at 23, to keep doing the work, to trust the process, and to understand that like, that gut feeling you have of what you're meant to do it's not a feeling. Like it's really, I always say like it's the universe, it's God placing his hand on your life and like telling you to like, go, like it's time. Go, you're ready.
Yes. I love that. Trust the process. I love that. Your camera roll is full of
my camera roll is filled with, so currently pictures from Chanel's engagement and motivational quotes. That's so funny that, those are my most recent pictures from last weekend. Chanel had her first engagement event and we were in DC. So that's what I'm looking at, and motivational quotes and content for PR Girl Manifesto.
Yes. Okay. And which TV show do you wish still aired?
Oh God. What shows do I really, really love? So what TV show do I wish still aired? Probably Martin. Martin and Saved by the Bell. Yeah, Martin and Saved by the Bell would be my two choices.
Oh, Saved by the Bell was good. That was a good one.
It was a good, and it carried us. Like it carried us like several years. So, and I mean, I guess Scandal just ended. So I just for the cultural, like what it means to be a Black woman. I'd say Scandal, even though it ended like last week.
That's a little fresh. That's a little modern. So yeah.
Right.
And the last one is, what is your infamous like clap back? What would your friends say?
Oh my God, this is great. I feel like my friends, I probably like if I did not send for you, don't come for me, because that's my thing. Or I just am a big fan of I mind my business. So I'm like, so just things that are like I'm I'm just keeping it to myself. So I guess, but I think the phrase they'd say, like, if I did not send for you, don't come for me.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yes.
Well, Fatou, it has been a pleasure, and I just wish you much continued success. And for those who are interested in supporting you, following you, taking advantage of your services, how can they do so? Where can they find you? How can they contact you?
Of course. So either, I've got my personal page and I've got my company page. Oh, I've got two company pages. So you can stay connected with me on Instagram. It's Fatou or PR Girl Manifesto. If they're looking for services, if you go to my website, it's fatoubi.com. It's pretty much the hub for everything else. So it'll take you to both agencies. It'll take you to PR Girl Manifesto, and it'll give you like additional insight into what I'm able to do for people.
Yes. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it today, and I'm sure everyone else is going to appreciate this episode. And just thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a blast. I always joke that, talking about PR can be boring sometimes, but this is really the most fun I've had talking about public relations. So I appreciate the opportunity.
You guys heard that. This is the most fun she's had. So go subscribe and rate this episode. Yes. So
yes.
That's a wrap.